Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Squid Game on Netflix is a shocking social experiment and devilishly crafted mystery, well deserving of its meteoric popularity, at least for the way this show made me feel all the feels.
Oh god. Oh no! Stop running! Come on. Don't do this! No! Jesus Christ! I can't do this.
And I cannot believe I cried over that man. This final reveal was so well set up with a sequence of clues throughout each episode, and while I normally apply my breakdown skills to Marvel titles, I just have to break down every interesting clue that you might have missed in Squid Game. So this series follows Kyun and other debtors participating in a violent survivor challenge for cash based on children's games: red light, green light, honeycomb, tug of war, marbles, hopscotch, and the Squid Game. Their dormitory walls actually display each of these games from the very beginning, barely visible in episode 1, but as each stack of bunks are removed as people are killed off, all of the games are eventually revealed. Now, early on, Gyeon meets Ilnam, an elderly player with a brain tumor who, as we learn in the final episode, was actually the creator of the game. Bored with watching alongside elite VIP gamblers who bet on these players like the horses Gyeon would bet on, and so Ilnam joined the game to make the most of his dying months, and finally found a friend in Gyeon. He fakes his death during the heartbreaking marbles challenge, setting up Gyeon to win it all. And it ends with Gyeon debating Ilnam on his deathbed about the core morality of society, using a dying homeless man outside as a test case for whether anyone would stop to help him by midnight, which I actually see is pretty similar to the final act of The Dark Knight. Batman and Joker using the fairies as a microcosm of society's selfishness or selflessness. And in the end of both, thank goodness, humanity steps up. Now, Ilnam being behind it all was actually foreshadowed in several subtle ways. Like all the way back in episode 1, when Gyeon first meets him, he is counting the number of other players, which he claims was suggested by his doctors to help with his dementia, but Gyeon naively points to the screen listing the total number, and Ilnam just looks at him like, dadoy.
영감님, 저기 456명 왔네요.
And that is because Ilnam was actually sizing up each of the candidates, and he's genuinely kind of annoyed that Gyeon is bothering him.
영감님 1등으로 오셨네? 나 꼴찌네? 나도 알아.
Now, if you're currently waging battles against puddles, mud, and snow in the ongoing war against soggy socks, there is one weapon you need in your arsenal, and that is Vessi shoes. Thanks to Vessi for sponsoring this video. Vessis are the perfect everyday shoe. So Vessis are sustainably made knit sneakers that are 100% waterproof. They keep your winter feet dry and warm without any of the stompiness of big old boots. They're made with this Dymatex material that's super easy to clean with just a rinse of water.
No! I spilled water all over my feetsy weetsies, but my oinky oinkies are bone dry like the dune sea. Thanks, Vessi.
Whatever this season, these are truly an everyday shoe. Vessis should be your go-to shoes by your door. Check them out in the link below for your own pair of Vessi shoes. And thanks again to Vessi for sponsoring this video. My feet and my hands have never felt cozier. Throughout the games, while other players are terrified, Ilnam is gleeful. And red light, green light, after the first wave of slaughtering, he happily strides forward, and when he freezes, on the motion sensor screen, all other players are lit with a full green overlay, whereas he only has a bit of green highlighting, no overlay, showing how the sensor sees him differently. In the protest vote, Ilnam votes last, voting to end the game, which he does to free himself of guilt and ensure that everyone who returns to play does so under their own free will. Basically his own sick justification for going forward with this. Ilnam runs into Gyeon outside the store in episode 2.
나 다시 가기로 했어. 어딜요?
Yeah, no answer to that question. Il-nam leaves it unsaid because he doesn't want to tell Gi-yeon where the island is, or even say out loud in a public place that there exists this battle royale island with murder games. Also notice that while we see every other major character get gassed as they sit in the van to return to the game, we do not see any gas clouding around Il-nam since he would have known the way. Gassing him would have been unnecessary. Now, despite Il-nam's elite status, he was fully prepared to die in each of the games. He wasn't really rigging them for himself. And that's because the whole heartless fairness of it is what made it fun for him. He was gonna die anyway because of his tumor. Like in the honeycomb challenge, he straight up picked one of the more challenging star shapes.
아니야, 별 좋아. 요즘은 별 보기가 힘든 세상 아닌가?
And only by copying Gi-yeon licking the back did he succeed. It was his friendship that he discovered with Gi-yeon that made him want to keep moving forward. In episode 4, the nighttime brawl only ends when Il-nam cries out.
제발 그만해. 야, 너무 무서워. 그만해.
And then only then does the front man send the guards in. Which brings us to the tug of war challenge. And of course, Il-nam knows a pretty solid strategy. And when they first pull back to tug, he's actually got a big smile on his face. But Il-nam was actually very close to death here. I actually checked, he really was chained to the rope like the others were. But only thanks to Sang-woo's last minute tactic to step forward and make the other side lose their footing were they able to win. And then right afterwards, while the others look exhausted and relieved, Il-nam, again, has a big smile on his face. Now, episode 5 is when the police officer Jun-ho finds the player records, and when he looks at a past year, there is a page for player 1 and player 2 of that year, but when he pulls the current year of 2020, the very first page shows player 002. There is no record for 001, since Il-nam, as a game creator, would not need a player record. Now, in episode 6, Gi-yeon gives Il-nam his jacket to cover his soiled pants, and Il-nam later gives him his 001 jacket.
이 옷 입고 가. 이 도시 없으면은 사람들이 자네를 우습게 볼 거야.
His way of telling Gi-yeon that the guards look up to player 001, and this marks Gi-yeon for safer passage heading into the final challenges. Now, during the marble game, the set perfectly recreates Il-nam's old home, which they would only be able to do if he had a hand in designing it. And he says,
내가 퇴근하고 집에 오면은 아들놈이 친구들이랑 신나게 놀고 있었어. 아빠가 온 줄도 모르고 말이야. 정신 차리라고요. 나는 저 전봇대 뒤에 숨어서 아들놈이 노는 거를 몰래 훔쳐봤지.
telling us how Il-nam created all of this as a way to watch people play the games that his son played, that he always wished he played with his son. And this building looks like it has a kind of interior, giving Il-nam plenty of places to hide to fake his death. Indeed, when he loses his marbles, the guard gunshot happens behind the pillar. We hear the gunshot, but no sound of a body hitting the ground. And on the final shot, despite everywhere else strewn with corpses, no body or blood can be seen in the courtyard that we were just in. Now, as we head into the final episodes, each major character's death was actually foreshadowed by their decisions back in episode 2. Like, Ali stole the money from his boss and left him with his hand disfigured just like his own. And then later in the marble challenge, Sang-woo steals the marbles from him. Deok-soo jumped off the bridge to escape his enemies, and later, Min-yo forces him into a death fall from the glass bridge. Se-byuk pressed a knife against her broker's neck, and she is later killed by Sang-woo slitting her throat. And Sang-woo nearly committed suicide in his bathtub, and then later kills himself to let Gi-yeon win. Now, this all began with Gi-yeon being offered red or blue in the train station. Gi-yeon chose blue, and actually later when the guards expose all of their debts, it looks like most of the other players there also chose blue. And this might be a clue for how the organization recruits these poor people. Blue for players of the game, whom they dress in turquoise. Red for how they recruit the oppressive guards, who are dressed in red. And you'll notice that in the final minutes, Gi-yeon has dyed his hair red and spots that recruiter again targeting a new candidate who also chose blue. Now, he ends up taking that card from the guy and calls it, and the respondent knows that he is about to board a flight, proving that they are still watching him, but he is now marked in red, and he takes on the role of the aggressor to burn it all down. down. I loved this series so much. It's gonna like stay with me for a long time. But if you're new to this channel, thank you so much for watching us. New Rockstars breaks down the details you missed with in-depth analyses of everything you love, from Marvel, Star Wars to horror films. So subscribe for more content like this, and you can support us by checking out our great merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow and subscribe to New Rockstars. Thanks for watching. Bye.